we're getting a few people coming in now, which is very exciting. So welcome to Project Pantry. Well, thanks for coming along on this lovely Friday afternoon. I'm really excited to welcome you here for our fourth session of this online live virtual healthy cooking class. My name's Laura. I'm a nutritionist with Nutrition Australia New South Wales and Share SMRE. And this is a combined initiative from both of those really fantastic organisations. Both at Nutrition Australia New South Wales and Share, we've been doing a lot of community care services and a lot of free kind of exercise and support services during this time as we're battling the COVID pandemic at the moment. So if there's any way that we can help you out, or if you want to have a look at some of the services that we're offering, please have a look at the links that are posted in the chat box. So the websites and the Facebook pages will be there, so you can hop on over and have a look at what's happening. So today, we will be making two really quick, really healthy recipes. So we've got apple oat cookies, and this was a recipe given to us from the Heart Foundation. We've also got creamy chicken laksa, which is a Nutrition Australia recipe. So with this, we're really ticking both boxes of something sweet and something savoury. This is our first week of actually doing a sweet dish, so I'm really looking forward to making these cookies with you today. So before we get started, I always like to ask a little bit of a survey. I'd like to know how confident you feel about cooking healthy meals at the moment. So on a scale of 1 to 5, so you can either put your hand up or pop it in the chat box, where five is feeling, really confident, and you're finding yourself cooking a lot more than usual, perhaps, and 1 is feeling really not confident or not feeling very motivated to kind of get in the kitchen and cook some meals. So pop it in the chat box or put your hand up. I want to see how everybody's feeling today. 3. Okay, so we're kind of skirting around the middle there, around 3. And yeah, a little bit up and down at the moment with lockdown, definitely. So we'll return to that at the end of the class today, and we'll see if there's any difference there, and hopefully there will be. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to get going is the apple oat cookies. So this is a recipe which actually doesn't have any added sugar, like it doesn't use your usual brown sugar or white sugar. It uses honey and apples for sweetness, as well as dried cranberries as well. So the first thing that we're going to do, if you can see me, I've got the 2 camera setups here. So looking out of this one, you should be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so the first step is the dry ingredients. So we'll be putting in, we've got flour and cinnamon here. So the recipe recommends using wholemeal plain flour with a little bit of baking powder in order to kind of give it a little bit of rise. I'm actually using gluten-free flour today, just to show you that there is an option of using, if you've got any allergies, this recipe does work with gluten-free flour. So I've got gluten-free self-raising flour, which kind of negates the need for using that baking powder. However, you could also use plain flour as well. We've got oats as well. So oats are a great one for keeping us full. Again, if you are celiac, even if you're using gluten-free flour, you need to kind of look for oats which are labeled gluten-free, or maybe replace oats with something like quinoa. That's because oats are processed on the same equipment as wheat and that kind of thing. So there can be that cross-contamination there. The next thing we're adding is pepitas or pumpkin seeds. So there's 1/4 cup here. And we've got coconut. So this is just desiccated coconut here. Then we will throw in our dried cranberries. So these are a 3/4 of a cup of the dried cranberries there. We're just going to bring those ingredients together. You could also use, so if you had sultanas instead of cranberries, they would be a great option as well. If you don't have pepitas, but you have something else in your pantry, like maybe almonds or macadamias, you think you could definitely substitute other nuts in here as well, because then you're still getting that lovely crunch from the nuts, and that filling protein as well. Okay, so that's our dry ingredients done. We're going to move on to preparing the apple for this one. So I've got 2 fairly good sized green apples here. So all we're going to be doing is grating these and popping these in. And this is actually used instead of eggs in this recipe. So the apple is going to be what's going to bind the ingredients together, as well as kind of giving it that lovely sweetness as well. And let's face it, who doesn't love, apple, cinnamon, and oats during winter time? I just think it's the best combination. While I'm getting this prepared, I want to hear where we've got people calling in from today. I know in the past we've had people coming in from America, we've had some people from Melbourne. So feel free to shout out where you're calling in from, or pop it in the chat box. I know for me, I'm in Sydney. So if there are any fellow Sydney-siders out there, I definitely can relate to how you're feeling during lockdown at the moment. I know one of the side effects of lockdown is kind of really, kind of feeling a little bit unmotivated. And particularly when it comes to, behaviors that we might be used to. So maybe you're used to kind of baking, or, trying new recipes, but with how busy things are in lockdown and everything like that, it can get a little bit hard to kind of motivate yourself to try something new. So that's really what today is all about.
Laura, we've had some questions about whether or not you have to peel the apples or not, or if you could keep the peel on by grating them in, or what would you say is best for this recipe?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so yes, for this recipe, I do peel the apples. The reason for that is the inside of the apple is kind of that soft, you need that moisture to help bind the dry ingredients. You could definitely give it a go with the skin on. The only thing you might find is that the cookies might fall apart a little bit more. But as I was going to mention as well, these are quite, thick, crumbly cookies by nature. So definitely something that you could do with these cookies is having them, as a snack with yogurt, or maybe crumbling them up, over some yogurt or frozen berries or something like that. So if you're okay with the crumbly nature, then you could definitely go ahead and keep the skin on. The first apple just about done. Bit of a messy job, but necessary. I'm putting my apple cores and everything to be composted. It's a great way to kind of reduce the amount of food waste that you're putting in the bin. Do we have anyone here who has a compost bin or kind of like a food waste? Any composting people here today?
Patricia, yeah, Patricia and Helen both. Patricia has a compost and she's living in Victoria, and Helen is from Canberra as well.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so we have quite a big composting facility going on here, and I use it to go into the veggie patch. So we use it for, you know, fertilizing our herbs and our veggies and that kind of thing. All right. So popping the apple in here. The final ingredients that we're going to add is the rest of our wet ingredients. So we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. About a tablespoon in there. We're also going to go in with some honey. So this will be our kick of sweetness for these cookies. This is a honey that is, I think it's from Byron Bay actually. Every time I go on holidays, which hasn't been for a while, but you know, any road trip or anything like that, I always look to pick up local honey. And I find it really interesting about how the taste of honey differs from the different, you know, the different regions.
We've had another good question, Laura.
Yeah.
Would Granny Smith apples be the best apples to use, or would you think you could use like a Pink Lady or a Red Delicious apple instead?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the reason we're using the Granny Smith apples is because the sweetness in them lends themselves a little bit better to recipes such as this. But definitely if you have other apples on hand that you are needing to use up, I think they could definitely work as well. I might just, you know, add in a little bit of extra honey or a little bit of extra cinnamon to kind of bump up the sweetness a little bit. Yeah, so, you know, with apples being in season in winter, whichever apples you have on hand, you can definitely give a try. Okay, so that is, I just put in some vanilla essence there. Just bringing this together. I've got my oven preheating at 190 degrees, just fan forced. And these will take about 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes to cook, just until they are lovely and golden on the top. So, just going to spoon these ones out here. So oats are, yeah, so oats are a great thing to have on hand in your pantry at any time, because you can use them for things like porridge. You can add them into muffins, to pancakes, even any kind of baked goods would be great to have oats in. The reason for this is that oats have a great impact on our heart health. So they help kind of regulate our blood sugar levels a little bit better than if you're just going for something purely sweet. And help keep you fuller for longer, and that's because they have that protein and that fiber in them. So I'm not being too precious with this because I quite like these cookies when they're, you know, kind of little bit thick, kind of like clusters, I suppose, and it just makes it quicker as well. So not being too precious, just quickly pulling it together onto the pan. These aren't going to spread a lot, and that's because we've used oil rather than butter as our fat in this recipe. So while you do still want to have that space around them to allow the air to get to them and for each of them to cook well individually, that you're not going to see a lot of spread from these cookies. These are great for that, you know, that 3 p.m. or that afternoon slump when we're really kind of thinking, could go for a nice sweet snack right now. So these are great because compared to something like perhaps a biscuit from the shops, like packaged biscuits or lollies or that kind of thing, these ones have less sugar content and less fat content, but they're still going to kind of, you know, give you that satisfaction. Okay, so we're all prepped with these. So I'm just going to pop these into my oven very quickly. All right. There we go. And those cookies are ready to go. We'll take them out at the end of the session and see how they look. So while we've got that cooking, we're going to work on the creamy chicken laksa. So I'm just going to move these things away. Now this recipe is so quick. It's a really great one for middle of the week if you don't have anything prepped. Because, I mean, literally it takes probably about 10 minutes realistically to get all your different ingredients together and kind of chop things up. But from then on, it's less than 10 minutes cooking time, really quick. And it's going to give you, you know, a great serves of veggies and protein and really keep you full. It's a great one for the family. Okay. Yes, so I'm going to get this pan heating up. While that's heating up, I'm just going to put on my kettle over there. So the recipe for this one says to use Hokkien noodles, which are egg and wheat noodles. I'm just showing you a different alternative. So you could also use rice stick noodles. And this is if you have, you know, perhaps you have an allergy or you don't have those Hokkien noodles in your pantry. So the rice stick noodles, just putting it into a flat dish, we'll cover it with boiling water for about six minutes, just until it's mostly cooked through. It's okay if it's not completely, because again, it will be going into the sauce at the end as part of the laksa. So I'm going to grab that boiling water, pouring this on. There we go. And while that's sitting, we're going to get cooking. So we go in with about a tablespoon of olive oil here. The first thing we're going to be adding is the Laksa paste. So whether you make your own or whether you have one from the store, putting in the spices and everything in the beginning kind of gives them a good chance to fry off and get really aromatic before we add the rest of the ingredients. Oh, that's very hot. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to give that about a minute.
Laura, if you are buying a Laksa paste, is there one that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so definitely looking for something that, you know, is either a reduced salt or reduced sugar variety. There are a few different ones on the market. I'm not going to suggest one or the other in terms of actual product names, but I will let you know in terms of looking for the best one for you. If you have a look at the average quantity per 100 grams, so on the nutritional panel on the back, you can kind of compare. Say if you have a couple of ones on the shelf, you can kind of compare. So look for one that has the lower amount of sodium in it, because that's going to be the key thing to look for in terms of this, because a lot of these do have quite high in salt. And again, we know that consuming high sodium foods on a regular basis is not the best in terms of our heart health and our blood pressure. So where possible, looking for ones that have a lower amount of salt in them is definitely the way to go.
And we've just had another question in regards to the cookies. So one of our rails has popped apples and cranberries in, and just wondering if they were to omit the honey, would the recipe still work?
Yes, definitely. Again, the honey is just there for sweetness, but you do get that sweetness from the cranberries and the apples. So you can definitely omit the honey. Apples, something that is key to keep in, because that's going to be the thing binding things together. So yes, I love that. I love that you're, you know, changing the recipe to what suits you. I think that's really important to what we like and to what we have on hand. Recipes are kind of just a starting point. That's how I see them. All right, so I've gone in with the evaporated milk here. Now you can use light coconut milk. You could use water, or even, you know, just milk as well, depending on what you have. All right, so all you're going to do is bring that to the boil. And to this, we're going to be adding our ingredients. So what we've got prepared is a bunch of different a bunch of different vegetables. So we've got sweet baby corn here. We've got some red capsicum. We've got some lovely green beans here. We've also got spring onions as well. So what I love about this is that you're getting a lot of different colors in here. And as we know, we always say to eat the rainbow. And the reason for that is because each vegetable, each fruit, the different colors are contributed to by different levels of nutrients. So by including the widest range of colors possible, you're going to give your body, you know, like kind of the best variety of nutrients for your body to function optimally. You could also add, you know, if you had spinach or silver beet, that would also be great in this. A lot of these you can get as canned varieties as well, which can be a little bit easier, especially at the moment. So you can get canned beans and canned corn instead of having the fresh variety if you need to. So I'm going in with those veggies. Just going to toss them in there. We're also going to be adding our chicken. So here we're using chicken breast, and this is 300 grams here, which is about the size of one very large chicken breast. If you're cooking for more people, you know, if you have a family of 4 adults perhaps at home, I'd recommend having a little bit more chicken than this, because this is really, if you think about having about, you know, 100 grams of chicken per person. So definitely kind of adding another chicken breast, or as much as if you particularly have hungry people at home, to kind of add that little bit of extra protein. So we're just going to pop the chicken breast straight in there. I'm just going to mix it around here. Okay, so we want it on about medium heat, just kind of gently simmering there. Once I let this stir for about a minute, I'm going to pop the lid on and just let the chicken continue to cook through.
And Laura, we've had another good question as well. If someone was to have a sulfate intolerance, what would be a good substitute for cranberries?
Oh, okay, that's a really good question. So could do something like maybe blueberries. I'm just popping the lid on there, sorry. Or you could actually kind of leave the cranberries out and use something like maybe another nut, so maybe something like almonds, because they're quite sweet as well. So like flaked almonds or something like that. So you're still kind of getting that good variety of different ingredients in there, but you're not getting the, you know, the high sulfate from the dried cranberry. Okay, so we let this cook for just a couple of minutes. And while that's simmering away, just going to organize myself a little bit here. Okay. So while that's simmering, I'm just going to quickly check on the cookies. I think they're almost done. Okay. Okay, so the cookies are finished here. So you can see you can kind of see in the camera, they've started to crispen along the top and around the edges as well. The degree to which you cook these is kind of up to you. If you like them crunchier, definitely leave them in for a little bit longer. If you like them still soft in the middle, then, you know, take them out at around the 13-minute mark. So as you can see, they have, you know, they're still keeping the same kind of shape as when I put them onto the pan. Yeah, so they've kind of got those clusters of of oats and apples and everything in there. So those are lovely to see that those have cooked really deliciously. And again, that was really quick. So that took me, 15 minutes in the oven, but before that, probably only about 5 minutes if you're working quickly to throw ingredients together. All right, we're almost finishing up. So if you can hear me over this, this smells so good. So we've got the chicken and the vegetables cooking away here. With that, we're going to add our noodles, which we know have been soaking in boiling water. So it's just as simple as adding them into the pan. Definitely once you add your noodles though, serve pretty soon after that, because we know that the noodles can kind of start to absorb the lovely flavors of the dish, which is great, but it can get a little bit too soggy, I found. So just pulling it together. I might just add these actually. So we get a little bit of noodle in there. Make sure that we're getting a good serve of the veggies and the chicken. And of course, trying to get as much of that sauce as we can as well, because that's where the yummy flavor is. All right, and to this, top it with, got some coriander here and some mint as well from the aforementioned veggie patch. So I'm just going to put that over the top here. We've got some bean sprouts. So put a handful of those on the top as well, and some lime for that acidity. So the finished dish, there we go. So we've got creamy chicken laksa. We've got great source of protein in there with the chicken. If you're vegetarian, you could use something like tofu or even chickpeas and lentils. Kind of a mixture of different legumes would be really delicious in this as well. We've got a great range of veggies in here. Again, using whatever you have on hand, but trying to aim for as many different colors as you can. We've got the rice noodles, and it's all together in this really delicious, spicy creamy sauce.
Laura, to make it more, say, liquidy, would you add more paste or would you add more liquids? What would you do? Yeah,
so you can add. The other night when I made this, I wanted it to have a lot more liquid in it as well. So I added a bit of water, I found, and a little bit of extra paste, and I kind of found that gave it the kind of soupy kind of texture that you're looking for.
Awesome.
Yeah. So there we go. We've got just 5 minutes over time, but we've got 2 really quick, really delicious, healthy recipes, which hopefully use a lot of what you already have lying around, or things that you can easily kind of add to cart when you're shopping, doing your grocery shopping. We've got something which is great for lunch or dinner, a great midweek meal, or something that you can make up on the weekend and freeze and then have throughout the week. And we've got something to hit those, those sugar cravings and that 3 p.m. slump as well. So returning quickly to the survey that we did at the start of the session, I want you to kind of reflect on, perhaps how confident or how motivated you feel to cooking healthy meals while at home, or trying out a new recipe. So again, on a scale of 1 to 5, so either using your hand or putting it into the chat. 1, feeling really not confident at all. And if you're still there, that's okay. And 5 is feeling really confident and like you could actually try out these recipes on the weekend. So put 1 to 5, put it in the chat. Let's see how we're going. I can
got
see
a 4 and a 5, another 5, and a 6. Patricia said a 6.
I love the 6. I love the 6.
Yay.
That's amazing. Okay, so that brings this week's Project Pantry to a close. I want to thank the Nutrition Australia New South Wales President, who's also President of Share, Barbara Ward, and our General Manager, Adrian. Without their guidance and everything, we wouldn't be able to be implementing so many of these free programs, especially at the moment during COVID. So thank you to our team and to all of our volunteers. Thank you to Lauren, who's our volunteer from Nutrition Australia. She's been helping moderate today. Lauren will be popping into the chat the feedback form. So feel free to click through that and share your thoughts with us, because we want to keep improving these project pantries and making sure that we are giving you the best tips we can. Don't forget to sign up for future ones. We will be having a few exciting guest cooks on coming up in the next few weeks. So we're really looking forward to having different people on and seeing different people's kitchens and how different people cook. I think that'll be really great for all of us. Okay, so with that, I'll leave you guys to the rest of your Friday. I hope you have a lovely weekend and enjoy the sunshine. Don't forget to keep going for walks as much as you can. Keep being active. And don't forget to get in the kitchen and try something new. Okay, thank you, everybody. Bye.